A superhero team-up movie starring a bunch of popular DC villains? Sounds interesting.
I can't wait to show you my toys.
Mamma mia, mamma mia. Mamma mia, let me go.
Let's do something fun.
So you think you can stop me and spit my eye? So you think you can love me and leave me to die? Oh, baby, can't do this to me, baby. Just gotta get right out of
Seriously, the hell's wrong with you people?
We're bad guys. It's what we do.
nothing really matters.
So Suicide Squad is directed by David Ayer, and it stars Will Smith, Margot Robbie, Jared Leto, Jai Courtney, amongst many, many, many others. Now, Suicide Squad is about this government agent named Amanda Waller who creates this team of supervillains in order to fight the foes that maybe Batman and Superman and the Justice League cannot take down. And I was so pumped up for Suicide Squad, I couldn't even handle it. I love myself a good superhero movie, but unfortunately, Suicide Squad is not that. It is a pretty bad and lazy attempt at making a superhero movie. Now, getting into what I thought about it, I just felt like Suicide Squad was so messy and had so many things that it could have done better and should have done better very easily, as well as the marketing and the movie just kind of promising to us that it would do these things much better than, say, Batman vs. Superman or any other movie in this DC expanded universe. And it just kind of failed, which really saddens me to say. I really hoped and I really thought that DC would be able to finally bring it back around with Suicide Squad. I thought this would be the movie. This would be the one that sets them back on track and gets them really going towards Justice League and towards this culmination of heroes that they've been striving for many years in trying to catch up to Marvel. It feels like less of a rushed movie than Batman vs. Superman, which just felt like the studio just shoving things into a movie to try and catch up to Marvel. Suicide Squad feels more like all these characters are in a movie and nobody really knows what's going on, and none of the people really were thinking in the same state of mind. Now, my biggest problem with Suicide Squad by far and away is the villain and how she's portrayed, and I just think that Cara Delevingne wasn't really given much to do with Enchantress, but the stuff she did do was just so over the top and ridiculous and didn't really make any sense. And to me, it would make a lot more sense to have a much more practical villain going up against the Suicide Squad. Say, I don't know, Joker? Which brings me to my next point. The Joker is in this movie for maybe 5 minutes, and I actually really enjoyed when he was on screen. I felt like everything Jared Leto did with this new Joker was an appropriate change and spin on the character, which it gave us just enough differences that I felt like he could set himself apart, but it also felt just like Joker in my mind. Now, Joker brings me to one of the best parts about this movie, and that's Joker and Harley Quinn's relationship and the way it's portrayed. Even though it's only portrayed briefly, it is by far and away the most compelling aspect of this story, and the way Joker and Harley Quinn interact is so unbelievably twisted and really, really speaks to both of their characters as a whole. And I felt like just was such a genuine representation of who these characters are in the comics, and it really just brought them to life on the big screen. Now, my biggest problem with this, especially when talking about Harleen Quinzel and her transformation into Harley Quinn when she meets the Joker, I just really wanted more of that. I remember going into the movie and expecting there to be a lot of that, and instead they just kind of montage through it, which was really upsetting to me, because that's one of the more interesting plot points of those two characters, is how Joker was able to drive Harley Quinn totally mad. And I felt like maybe it would have been better in a solo Batman movie or even in a solo Joker Harley Quinn movie where you could really develop that story and really, really, really make you care about these two characters' relationship. Another big issue this movie has is that it just tends to montage through all the important stuff. When the team is first getting introduced, all the characters are just kind of montaged through. Now, it is very funny, and I do think the stylized text is a really good addition and makes the story a little more fun and spunky, but at the same time, it's just, you don't really know what these characters can do. They just kind of tell you what's going on, and you don't really understand why Batman is not being called to the job. Another huge issue with Suicide Squad is they try so hard to compile this classic rock mixtape soundtrack, and it just doesn't work most of the time. The main reason it doesn't work is they don't let a song play through. It just feels like each song is designed to purposely force a different tone on you every single time. They use Eminem's music a couple times when it works, and I felt like at the very beginning, I felt like Bohemian Rhapsody played, and it really added to the tone. But once Bohemian Rhapsody plays, you hear another song for Harley Quinn, then Sympathy for the Devil comes on for, I don't even know who, I think for Rick Flag, and then Fortunate Son comes on for Killer Croc, which doesn't make any sense. These songs play like 30 seconds, and then it fades out and fades in with a new 70s rock song. And it didn't really gel with me at all. It just took me way, way out of the movie, and I had no idea why these songs were just being so aggressively shoved down my throat. Now that brings me to my next negative is Rick Flag, and just his character in general. I felt like he was the most useless character I've seen in a movie maybe all year. Everything he said was just basically him talking to the audience. I felt like I was watching Deadpool because he could have literally turned to the camera and just said, "Hey, we need to go into the city now." Because everything he said was just exposition to let the audience know exactly what's going on in case you already couldn't tell what was going on, because it's been made very, very obvious by all the other characters what's going on. So I don't understand why Rick Flag ever opened his mouth half the time. And if Rick Flag would just shut up occasionally, his character would be much more threatening, and you would really believe that he would kill these Suicide Squad members once they strayed from the team. Now, getting into the few positives I have about this movie, I felt like Will Smith's portrayal of Deadshot was awesome. I could really relate to his character and really understood what his goal was and why he was doing these things that he was doing, because he has a very complex, very complete, well-rounded story that made sense to me as a viewer. Another positive for me was most of the performances given by these actors. I felt like even though maybe they weren't given a great chance to shine by the script or by the studio or whoever was making this movie, I felt like all the actors did as good as they possibly could with the material, except for maybe Joel Kinnaman as Rick Flag, because his character was just obviously totally ridiculous to me. But Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang, I could not believe that I'm saying Jai Courtney was good in a movie, but he was actually one of the better aspects of the movie for me. I thought Viola Davis as Amanda Waller was absolutely great. I felt like she was just as intimidating as she was supposed to be. And I felt like all the characters really were done justice by the actors. I felt like they just weren't done justice by the script and the plot structure. And that's another big problem with this movie, is the movie doesn't really build to anything. It just kind of starts, you kind of get an introduction, and then the movie ends. It just doesn't feel like there's any climax or any development at all. It just feels kind of like this huge montage music video thing. It's very bizarre and very difficult to watch. In the end, I think Suicide Squad failed to do pretty much everything it set out to achieve, and it really was a huge disappointment for me. And that's why, in the end, I'm going to give Suicide Squad a 1.5 out of 4. Thanks, guys. That's the review of Suicide Squad. As you can see, I'm in a different location. That's because I'm actually in Chicago right now on a quick little vacation. And I hope you like the review. Hope you drop me a subscribe, drop me a like, whatever it is you do here on YouTube. And I'll see you next week.